Is a buyer's agent actually worth it? Yeah, of course. No, in all seriousness, full disclosure, I am a buyer's agent, but in today's episode, I'm actually going to step outside of my profession and look at it from an outsider's perspective, but with the internal knowledge of what we actually do on a day-to-day basis to help you decide whether a buyer's agent is right for you, whether it's worth forking out all the money for it, and also what problems do they solve that they can help you with along the way. And also, if you're choosing to use a buyer's agent, what should you look out for? In case you don't know me already, my name is Steve Williams and I'm the founder of W Property Advisory, and I've helped people get into the market across the country. And on this podcast, we talk all things rentvesting, property, and getting ahead. So hit the subscribe button. Love to have you come along again for another episode. So let's firstly start with your situation, right? What problem do you have which you're thinking about you might have a need for a buyer's agent? A lot of people that go to a buyer's agent, they might have a problem like maybe they keep missing out. Maybe they don't know where to buy. Maybe they are having trouble knowing what offer to make on a property. Maybe they don't know what due diligence to do on a property, and they're really worried about making a mistake. Buying a property, it is a really big thing, right? It's a big investment and you can potentially make mistakes which can cost lots and lots of money. So really think about like what problem do you have and what can a buyer's agent help you with? I'll give you an example. So when I was in my early 20s, I bought my second property. And at the time, buyer's agents, they weren't really a thing back then. And there really wasn't much data available around choosing an investment property. I've talked about this in other episodes, but I bought an apartment and I thought it was going to be a great investment because the sales agent told me that, great location, it's in St. Kilda, who wouldn't want to live there? But over the course of the 12 odd years that I owned the property barely did anything. I had to fork out a fair bit of money each week, $300 to $400 each week to hold the property. And it really didn't grow much in value compared to if I had bought a house or even an apartment in another location like Bondi or Coogee in Sydney. So back then I didn't have many options and I didn't really know where to get the information from. So I guess the first thing is, do you know, what makes a good investment property? Do you know what data there is available and how to interpret the data? Because data is a really important factor to consider when buying a property, because property prices are all about supply and demand, right? And if you can get access to data where you can look at the demand metrics and the supply metrics, both from a buying and selling perspective, but also from a rental perspective, it's really going to make a big difference on choosing the right sort of investment property. That data is all available. There are systems out there and websites now where you can access those tools easily. So if you've got time to do the research and the legwork, well, maybe you don't need help with that. But often some people might go down that path, but they need a little bit of help in interpreting what the information is and helping them, get the confidence to go ahead with a property. So secondly, we've got due diligence, and there's tons of things you want to check. Sometimes a sales agent can provide this if you ask the questions. Some of it is available online, but one thing that we look at for clients is whether there's much public housing in an area. And this is just to be aware of the sorts of people that live in an area. Some states you can access this information as an agent in the portals, but if you are the average person, then unfortunately you can't access this information. But it's just this sort of information we can get access to that the general public might not be able to, which we can help you work out whether it's the right street or the right suburb to buy in. Then we've also got the fact that buying a property in today's market, depending on what price point and what city, it is pretty complex right now. So if you've been finding, firstly, you can't find a property that is aligned with what you're wanting, or maybe you're putting offers in and keep missing out and you're really not seeing much come up. Well, a buyer's agent can really help know, or get access to more properties. And you might have heard the term of off-market properties flying around. I've talked about off-market properties in another episode. Sometimes you can get a great deal. Sometimes they're not a great deal. You really need to work with a buyer's agent that's going to work out what the true value of the property is and whether it's worth going for it, whether it's on market or off market. Because of the competition, putting in an offer in a way that is going to have conditions and a price which is likely to be approved is really the key to buying a property. So if that's something you're not comfortable with, then maybe a buyer's agent might be worthwhile for you. So we talked about the due diligence, the pricing, and also the data. I think that's some key points that buyer's agents can help with. But I think the other thing as well is time, right? And if you are a busy person, most of us are, and you don't have the time to do the legwork on a property, well, time factor is always a big thing, right? And I've heard of some buyers where they're spending I literally just spoke to a first home buyer in a message today, and she said she's been looking since April last year. So that's over a year she's been looking, and prices have actually gone up where she's buying by about 10%. So on a $600,000 property, that's like 60,000. So if she had to got into the market earlier, she would have had a foot in the door and I guess not missed out on some of that opportunity cost with the growth. And some places where people are buying, prices are going up quite rapidly. So that might be another kind of indirect benefit of using a buyer's agent, is getting your foot into the market sooner than if you were doing it yourself. This is another factor which I think a lot of people don't consider. A lot of the people I speak to, they might be, I guess, a little bit analytical or a little bit worried or concerned, and they've been really spinning their wheels for quite a long time in buying a property. And when we actually work with clients, I have to say a big part of our job is to help them understand, firstly, how the market works. Secondly, like what is an offer that's going to get done. Most buyers, they always underestimate the price of a property, and most sellers always overestimate the price of the property they own. So we help them work out where we see value, because if you speak to a sales agent, they are representing the seller. And so by having someone on your side that's really going to put the facts and show you the evidence that, hey, here's some comparable properties, we see good value at X price, that's going to really help you get, the confidence to put in an offer that's more likely to be accepted. I have to say as well, working with lots of buyers, I've worked with over 100 now, you really go through this, I guess, emotional roller coaster. And by having someone on your side that, I guess, calms the nerves and gives you the reassurance and also celebrates the win. When we get a property, there's nothing better than that. But also sometimes we miss out and we need to recollect and go on to the next property. So from that perspective, I've worked with a lot of people who are single and maybe they don't have family that can actually give them some support along that journey. Or maybe they're a couple and they might even have disagreements as to how to approach property or what's important to each of them. So often we're playing that middle person of trying to bring two people together to understand, firstly, what do they both actually want, what's both achievable, and how can we get that deal done. Based on what I've talked about already, as you can hear, some of the key things are, firstly, getting access to more properties. We've also got aligning thoughts and managing expectations, and also training on how buying property actually works. The thing is, most people, they only buy a property maybe once, twice, 3 times in their life. Some people more than that, but it is something you don't do very frequently. And when you're doing it every day, very different story. You're really more in touch with what's going on. We got the due diligence stuff we need to consider. We've also got that research side as well. And then the time factor, that it takes time to buy a property and do all of the work I just talked to you about before. So think about, like, what do you actually need help with and how do you place a value on that, depending on how you value your time or how you value the deal itself. Because if you can get access to a property, get the deal done, and then start capturing some growth and, I guess, not missing out and being left out of the market, there's definitely a lot of value in that. So I'm really curious to see if you have used a buyer's agent before, or if you're considering around, where do you see the value at? Pop it in the comments. If you've got any questions about using a buyer's agent, you don't need to use me. I think it's really important to find someone that's aligned with what your objectives are and also how you like to work, and also the type of property and the location that you're buying as well. But you can pop any comments into the chat. Happy to give my guidance. But now let's move on and talk about, how do you actually choose a buyer's agent? This conversation has been a lot about from an investment perspective, because we primarily focus on investment properties for clients. And if you are looking to buy an investment and considering a buyer's agent, these are some of the things that you want to consider. Firstly, if you know specifically where you want to buy, that's a different story than if you need someone to do the research and work out where is the best fit based on what your objectives are, your budget, and whether you want like a capital growth or a cash flow play as well. So if you want to focus on a particular area, it might be better off using a buyer's agent that's locally based there. But if you want to sort of find out the right investment location and where should you put your money, then having a buyer's agent that has a more broader market knowledge across the entire country and different markets is going to help you get a result, and help you get into the market that's most suited for you and make it more about a data decision more so than, I guess, location and an emotional decision as well. And the thing is, if we are across what's going on in the whole country, then we can make the right decision based on what our personal objectives are. So if you're using a buyer's agent and maybe you've seen ads pop up online for one, or maybe you've met a few already, the things you want to sort of look out for is, do the sorts of properties that they buy align with the sort of property that you're looking to buy as well? What's their track record? And also, I guess, do you vibe with them, right? Because it is a journey buying a house. So someone who you can get along with, that tells you how it is, that is going to do you a great service, that's really critical. So yeah, when you speak to a buyer's agent, get to know them, find out their methodology for buying, find out their process and what they're actually going to deliver you at the end result. And that's going to give you a good idea of whether it's the right fit for you. In terms of pricing, different buyer's agents charge different things. Some do a percentage fee, some do a fixed fee. And I think as well, just realize that the price, often reflects the sort of service you get. There are some cheaper ones out there. There are some more expensive ones out there. So I think it's more important to make the decision from, is this the right person for me? Are they going to deliver the result I need? And is the price, reasonable for the service that I'm looking for? I don't necessarily agree with going with the cheapest option. I don't necessarily think going with the most expensive is going to provide a better service. I think really just find one that you align with and connect with, and that you can see some proven experience and also some results as well. And that's going to really help you make those right decisions. Now, I hope this hasn't come across too biased. I'm really looking at it from the outside in. I think if I didn't know anything about property back in my early 20s, I think I would have got a lot of value out of a buyer's agent. But, where I am now, I know a lot about property and investments. I think if I didn't know a particular market and I wanted someone locally that has good relationships and with agents and knows the area intimately, I would definitely see that there's value there. Even me as a buyer's agent, paying someone in a specific area, especially if it's an owner-occupier place where I'm not really familiar with that location, say I'm moving to there, I think that's a lot of value. But from the outside in, I personally see there's a lot of value if you choose the right buyer's agent for you. So I hope that's been helpful. Again, I'd love to have you subscribe to the podcast and channel. We are on both YouTube and Spotify. We got some great episodes coming up. We'll see you next time. Until then, let's Rentvest and get ahead together.
All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs, and speak to a professional.